Joining me on the phone from Kalispell, Montana. She is one of the people that you would hear every morning if you listen to one of the best country stations in the valley, The Bear. Leah Lindsay, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Kent?
Good. In the valley, if there's one radio personality that really stands out the most, I think everybody would agree with me, it would be you. And it's only because of your personality, and you've been doing it for quite some time. You actually are celebrating how many years now?
Well, this year is actually 19. So next year will be the big 2-0.
What made you interested in being on the radio?
Well, initially I remember my parents got divorced when I was in 4th grade, and we moved to the big city of Helena, Montana, from Plains, Montana, really tiny town. And I heard a radio station when we came over the pass going into Helena, and I said, "Mother, what is this music?" It was "I Shot the Sheriff" by Eric Clapton. And she was like, "Well, Leah, that's rock and roll." And I was like, wow. I became a radio junkie. I would record, on my little cassette player. I would record all of these shows. I listened to KCAP, Helena. I can still sing the jingle. Every day, I created my own radio station when I was I think 7th grade in music class. And I went on a tour of KCAP, Helena, as well. The only time I ever called into the radio station was when we ended up living in Billings, Montana, which is the biggest city here in Montana. I think in 9th grade, I won a pair of hockey tickets. So I've had this lifelong love with radio. When I was a senior in high school, I thought I signed up. I was going to go to the University of Montana and study radio TV. But instead, I got married because I was too afraid to go to college. How silly is that, right? So then, we traveled around the country and came back to Montana. My ex-husband was in the Navy, and when we returned, we did go to college. But I ended up studying acting instead of radio TV. But it was in the same building, and my training is as an actress of 5 years of voice and speech and performing. And so it's a little different than most radio broadcasters' training, where they get 3 months of voice training. I had 5 years. But when I was in school, they told us that the majority of actors make their money doing voiceover work. And we spent a lot of time on that. And I started doing radio commercials for different businesses when I was a student at the university. And I thought that was pretty fun. Actually, a station in Missoula offered me a job, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a bartender here while I'm in college. I'm making so much money. What would they pay me, minimum wage, and I'd work overnight? Nah, I think I'll keep my bartending job. So I didn't jump at it. But when I moved to the Flathead, I thought, what the heck? I have these tapes on it with commercials that I've done for other places, and I was interviewing to be an ad rep, which is a person who sells radio advertising. And that's what I was hired to do. I tried to get the owner to listen to my tape, and he was not interested. 2 days later, I was on the air with who is now my morning show partner on the Bear Morning Country Club, and I worked in radio advertising for about 4 of my 20 years here. But the majority of it's been on air on different stations. When I started, we had 3 radio stations. And now we have 7, and it's been pretty cool.
I mean, it's got to be pretty amazing from when you first started till now, as far as how technology has changed. I know you used to work with what looked like 8-tracks, if they were 8-tracks, and now it's all touchscreen computers. I mean, what has that been like, the transition?
Oh, it's been really amazing. Technology is so crazy cool, and what we can do now versus when I first began. And before I started in radio, there were reel-to-reel and cutting and slicing, and carts that's what those little 8-track looking things are called. And then the transition into cassette tapes, where we would record commercials for clients on cassette tapes, and now we do everything in digital format and send things via email. And things have changed a lot, but the sound is greater. I mean, going to 100% digital radio station with all the sound just being crystal clear is pretty amazing. And yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. But you still have your same basics: headphones, microphone, signal.
What is, in your mind, the major reason why local radio stations, and I think the Flathead Valley is so lucky because you go into larger areas like where I'm at, I mean, it's a rarity that you have literally live people that live in your area on the radio instead of what satellite, I believe, what it's called, stations that have guys in Tennessee or California recording or whatnot. I mean, what makes where you're at, I do believe it's still broadcasting.
It is.
Compared to those other stations.
Well, first, radio, I have to say that when satellite radio first started to appear, everyone in terrestrial radio was going, oh, no, scary, And there was a lot of fear because radio is such a powerful medium. But what's been amazing, and you can look at statistics around the country, is local radio is huge wherever you are. I mean, it's just one of the most powerful mediums. Whereas, you can listen to things online, and you can, newspapers are going away. TV, it's hard to figure out where to go. But people want to hear instantaneous news. Radio, you can do whatever you have to do right now. You don't have to have a camera. You don't have to have, you make it doesn't have to be on because I usually come to work straight out of bed with my hair sticking out, but not very glamorous, but nobody knows that. And when there's a huge snowstorm and everyone wants to know, is it their school? Even though you could go look it up on a website, people want to call and find out from their local people that they trust and talk to every day on the radio, because people on the radio, you get to know each other and you become friends. And so I think that's one thing that is amazing about radio in general, and with our stations, and I think really good radio in every market across the country. It's taking a really scientific approach, trying to decipher who you're talking to with each station, knowing who you're talking to, knowing who your demographic is, and delivering message and content, music, everything that audience would like. So hopefully you guessed right. And pretty much everything we'll do. So we have 7 different stations with 7 different sorts of audiences, and I do a morning show on one that has one targeted demographic, and when I walk out the doors to go do my other show on the classic rock station, it's a totally different demographic. And so the actor in me gets to be myself, but turn on the rock chick when I get into the classic rock station, whereas maybe my delivery is just a little bit different on the country station. Not a lot. It's still me. It's still real. It's just I got to have a little different attitude.
Yeah, well, of course, when you're dealing with rock, you got to be a little bit more edgy, don't you?
It's just really, it's really fun for me, and I feel amazingly blessed to get to be a performer on 2 different shows every single day. That's crazy cool.
Let me ask you this. For me, I have certain people that have been that dream interview, and for me, it was my mentor, Nick O'Lean, that I got to interview him, who on the country station has been a huge, oh my gosh, I can't believe I interviewed this guy.
Well, I also did some TV for a few years as well, and so I got to interview Charlton Heston, and
wow.
That was a deal. Yeah, that was a deal.
What was that like?
That was amazing. It was, I mean, that's Charlton Heston. God, he's Moses, he's whatever. He's no longer with us, but easily there's nothing that could ever happen that will top that, probably, for me. That was cool. And what's even most cool about it is a guy I grew up with in a small town in Montana, went off, worked in Washington, D.C., did a lot of really cool things there, and had the opportunity to travel with Charles and husband, when he came to Montana to support some of our candidates here. And he knew me, and he knew what I did, and he respected me, and he called me and said, "Would you like an exclusive interview with Charles and Heston?" Hello. So he came to me, and that was crazy. Just kind of like you coming to me and saying, "Hey, can I interview you?" To me, that's so cool, and I thank you. Yeah.
And then along with, obviously being on the radio, you get a lot of opportunities to experience and possibly go see artists in concert. Is there one specific artist that you've been able to go see that you really, really enjoyed?
One of the most cool things about this job in radio and getting to go to shows is getting to meet artists. I think that's the coolest. So that's totally taken my whole concert going experience to a different level. I would say probably my very favorite has been Dirk Bentley. He was so real, such a just down-to-earth, super nice guy. I did with St. Jude's, which is a radiothon for kids with cancer, and the hospital St. Jude's. We fly to Memphis to a radio seminar every year. A few of us will go, and I remember going, and they have a songwriters convention where they bring all these songwriters out for all the radio people that are there from all over the country, and they perform, and the artists come, and they have dinner with the radio announcers. So who sat right next to me and ate dinner with me at a table for 8? Keith Urban.
Oh, my goodness.
How cool is that?
He seems like a very genuine guy. In fact, just recently he had a concert up here in New Hampshire, and apparently a fan had a sign that said, "It's my birthday," and then he brought him up on stage, and apparently his girlfriend or wife said, he likes to play guitar or something, so he actually let him play a song, and I guess he blew Keith Urban's mind. And in fact, he made a personal Facebook Live or video with him saying how awesome of an experience it was for him. It just, when you see musicians and all that have appreciation for their fans like that on a more personal level, it really shows their character, and it really makes you appreciate them even more as a musician.
Absolutely, and I just think that's such a super cool story, and
it seems like, to me, country music artists, you see a lot more of that from them than other genres of music. Like, I went to a Brad Paisley concert, and Brad's always been known to be, a fan supporter, giving out guitars and all that. In fact, I saw Brad Paisley, I think 2 years ago, and he sang Happy Birthday to someone and gave him the guitar that he played Happy Birthday on. I mean, little things like that makes those concerts more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree. I think country artists are definitely different, and there's just a definitely very cool, vibe with them and how real they are for the most part. I've only been disappointed a couple of times by people I really had expectations of them being just real people, and maybe they weren't. And maybe they were really snotty. There were a couple of those.
But yeah, is there one interview that you've done where you expected it to be like the most cool interview, and then it turned out not to be?
I don't know. I guess I live like kind of in the moment. And so, I'll be like, well, I want to be prepared and I want to go into an interview, with these expectations. But I think if you're just real and talk to people, listen to them, you get magic out of them. There are people that I haven't interviewed that I've met that I didn't necessarily like, as far as famous people. But as far as an interview wise, those have always gone pretty well. And I think the more you get a chance and an opportunity to talk to people, then you break down those walls. So maybe when I met Clint Black at St. Jude's, and I thought he was the most arrogant dude I ever met, which totally broke my heart because I expected him to just be real and down to earth and, awesome. Maybe if I had been interviewing him and had more of his time and he didn't feel like he was, on a pedestal meeting a whole bunch of people, maybe that would have been different, Yeah. So I always try and take that into a grain of salt. I know Martina McBride came here, and she had been stopped at the border of Canada and stuck there for hours. So she was late to her show, the show still went on time, but she was super late, didn't have her prep time. And she was stressed, and she was not super nice. Yeah. But I always go, well, that's probably why, But
I'm sure they expect themselves to, put on what they think is a good show. And even though they don't see it as it probably was a good show, we view it as, oh my gosh, it's McGrath. Right. Yeah. So is there one thing in your life that you haven't interviewed or you haven't done that you really wish would happen?
I'm sure that I think there's always room for other things. Do I have any super goals? I think that John, my morning show partner, and I should actually put our hat in the ring for different awards, like in the Montana Broadcasting Association. We've never done that. We've never, recorded our stuff and sent it off and said, hey, these are the reasons why we should be in the running, and because we just want our audience to have fun with us. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. I don't think he'd want to do it though. He's pretty humble. He doesn't want to get all need a bunch of praise. But I think it might be fun. I might record it behind his back and prepare things and send it in for next year.
What is it like working with John? I know a little bit about his career. He started out in Libby, Montana, in a small station there, and made it over to the old station where you guys were at in Whitefish. What is it like working with him? He's like the king of country in the Flathead, isn't he?
He's amazing. He's just one of the best broadcasters that you will ever meet. He's 30-some plus years of experience, and I learn from him every day. He's has high expectations. He wants you to figure out what you're doing, and for me, I'm fortunate because I'm an actor, so I'm used to being in, I had all these years of classes nonstop where the other students and the professors, we would pick apart what the others were doing. This would make you better. Why don't you try this? Oh yeah, that was not good, and John does that, and we actually do it to each other every morning off the air, what was that? I feel like we're a really great partnership. He told me when I first started with him that he would like it if I could just, his dream would be to have a partner who just knew what to do next without him having to do anything. And I feel like we're getting to that point, I come in, I sit down, we've both been doing other things, and then we sit down together, and all of a sudden it's on, and we just go. And sometimes there's a little bit of, timing off just a smidge, but yeah, getting to understand it pretty good and be able to. It's amazing. It's a great mentorship. He told me when I first came here that he thought, and this was very cool, that he thought I had the best female voice he'd ever heard in radio anywhere, and I was like, really? And that was 19 years ago, and he still will tell me, he'll tell me my weaknesses. He said to me, Leah, when you are focused, nobody's ever better than you. When you're not focused, you suck.
At least he's honest.
That's the kind of, that's how you grow as a performer, I think, and being able to be honest and not worry about hurting somebody's feelings, those sorts of things, because it's just a show. You just need to make it better.
Yeah.
Can't get temperamental and.
And you've been on and off as far as the morning show with John, because at one point I do know, what was it? It's got to be more than 10 years ago. You were with him, and then you went off to, I do believe, the river?
Well, we had different changes. So it was actually known as the Mountain.
Yeah.
And then it was called the Mix. And so I did the morning show there with Ross Strouser, who was also an amazing mentor to me. John and I, my second day of work, he had me on the air with him doing the morning show, but the owner of our station said, no, I hired you to be in radio advertising and sales. You're not going to be on the air. So that had to wait for a while. And then there was a brief time when I was on with John, but then I was kind of dancing back and forth between stations. A lot of people in radio all around the country say, you're lucky if you work at a place for 2-3 years. Well, if you look at John and you look at me and Rob Debris, who's worked here, there's a lot of us here that are 20, 30 years at the same company. And my friends in radio in other parts of the country are like, how does that happen? How did you not get fired? Because people change formats. And so I'm very fortunate I don't work for a huge corporation where they just, cut you out just because they suddenly don't need you. We've got this, we have a family feel, and it has its own challenges, but it's also got its magic, so much magic.
Well, I think that's what separates you from the competition. You've been there for so long. You've had that experience, and I think it's kind of like what you said, a family thing. You kind of grow into that, and you're like, well, I don't know if I really want to go to the other side.
Right. But well, I know one thing. I would never work for a different radio station in this valley, because where I work is where all the talent is. I look at my coworkers and I'm like, holy cow, I am so fortunate and I think something about that family environment and growing each other and pushing each other with love and care not only has kept us all together. We're a great team, but I don't think about beating somebody across town's radio station in the ratings, because I think about beating the people in my building. I want to kick their butt. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that I respect and go, yeah, man, no, that's a great show. I want to have better numbers than that show. I don't care about those guys over there. They don't have whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's cool. I did, a number of years ago, I've had like a couple of different offers, like, would you want to come to Spokane and do this morning show? Go over there, meet with them, see that billboard, we put your face on it, see this, see that. And I would not want to stay there very long. I would want to go, if I was going to go, I would want to go from there to a major market. And really, is that what I want? I like Montana. I like where I live. I like my kids being here, and, it's all good. So, yeah.
Well, the thing I can say about beat broadcasting where you work is in high school I did job shadows with, I do believe I did one with B98 with Rob. I don't remember who was with him at the time in 2003. Rob is just, if you know him personally and you hear him on the radio, I think there's really no difference. He's one and the same all the time, and it's his laugh.
He's super real, yeah.
Yeah.
He, I think maybe in 2003, I was his morning show partner.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I remember getting there at 4 o'clock in the morning and hanging out with you guys. It was a fun time, and hanging out with John. And it was a dream. I like going there. But my point is, I also did job shadows I call it the other side. And it just seems like between the two, it just seems like what you were saying as far as being a family is very, very true. Everything that's run there is top notch. The studios, the way things are run, the programming. There's no really from an outside looking in. There's no chaos.
Well, there's always got to be some sort of something, but there's
that's
nothing is ever. Yeah, I mean, nothing is ever. It's all. I just love everybody I work with, and I think that we all do. Even though Rob will never say the word love, I always tell him, "I know you love me, Rob. I know you don't have to say it because I know you do."
Well, I gotta tell you, it's been an honor talking with you, and it's great to be able to have the B98 app. It's great to have the Bear app to listen to because, like I said, living in a larger area, you don't really get that hometown experience listening as you do when you listen to your guys' station. And I got to tell you, I miss it. Tell us, all the listeners that are at least in the Flathead Valley, or if they've got the app, when your show is on and how they can hear you.
Well, the morning show on 106.3 The Bear, KDBR, is from 6 in the morning till 10, and on our website, kdbr.com, you can download the app right there for your smartphone, iPhone, or Android. And B98, I am on from 10 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, and I do a thing called All You Can Request Lunch, where I get to totally change all the programming based on what the listeners want. So that's very cool, and very rare that anybody lets you do that, any program director. And that is KBBZ Kalispell. You can find our website by going b98rocks.com, and again, there's an app right there. You can download for your phone and listen wherever, which is so cool. It's so cool. I had a call one day for lunch from the Johnson Space Center in Texas. I get calls from Pittsburgh, from Philly, from California, from Canada. Wow. And that
even Maine.
And Maine. And from Maine. So
Alrighty, well, I appreciate your time, and hopefully you have another 19 years to go.
Well, let's hope so. Knock on wood. I don't think that's wood, but knock it. Kent, you're awesome. I'm so happy you're doing what you love, and I love getting to talk to you. Thank you. I'm honored that you wanted to talk to me.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I know you're always busy and on the move, and whether you're on the radio or hanging out with your grandchildren, which, by the way, they're adorable.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. It's the best thing in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to go, I'm going to be a grandma, but whatever. I love it.
Alrighty, well, nice talking with you, and maybe we'll talk with you again later on.
Absolutely, anytime, and I'll see you on Facebook for sure.
Alrighty.
All right, bye, Ken.
Alright, bye.